I would love to hear your thoughts about what's happening with Nintendo, the console. Is there anything that impressed you, surprised you?
I think it looks cool. I'm going to buy one, but I'm not sure how relevant that is to the global conversation because I'll buy all kinds of things. Uh, but I think it's going to work for Nintendo enthusiasts. But what I worry is that the Switch has basically become like the console to get for families, especially casual gamers. All kinds of people like that, and I worry that it's going to be really hard to make the transition. It looks nice, and it'll be more powerful. But we've already seen that people don't care about that. That power is not the selling point that it used to be.
What was the price point again?
US was $450.
So this is the most expensive by dollar Nintendo console ever. Is that
Yeah, and
correct?
like inflation is a thing. But even when you take inflation into account, I believe it's pretty close to the top. And it used to be in the 80s and 90s that we were just really accustomed to spending more.
Manu, any thoughts about what we're seeing on screen?
So many thoughts.
Do you want to share it?
The good thing, I think the technology is there. I think the 1080p, so they went far enough probably in terms of improvement, the FPS, the refreshing rate.
Mm-hmm.
This is at least good. It's better than a Steam Deck. It's better than most of the portable PC that we have on the market right now. But at the same time, they also mentioned that they are not going for any kind of performance race against other platforms. So it's difficult to showcase how much technologically it's improved versus the Switch while still be far away from the other console, the other traditional console. I think the device look nice. It's a nice improvement, but it's just an improvement. What is interesting is the mouse system. I think they had a good idea. So you hold your Joy-Con on a surface, and then you move it like a mouse. You see,
Yeah.
so that's cool. I think that's really adding because it opens. Yeah, you can just play with a mouse, or a shooter with a mouse, or you can play
Or like Civilization, which is pretty big on the Switch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is really cool, and it's actually for me better than a Steam Deck when it comes to shooting and to aiming.
Well, I do want to challenge that though, because who the hell's gonna use the Joy-Cons like that? Like, because
Whoever is a mouse and keyboard player.
can we
Yeah,
agree?
but like whoever's a mouse and keyboard player by definition
How
has a
many
mouse and
people-
keyboard somewhere else,
Yeah. I know, but I think it's not bad.
Yeah.
I think
not bad is kind of what it is. Is that if we're Nintendo loves hardware tricks.
Yeah.
But I do think it like shows the limits of where we are with like modern game design, that like that's where we can get as a hardware trick, is like a mouse where you didn't expect it.
It does feel like they're trying to cater to the streaming community, not just on this. I mean,
I think the C button, that's interesting. That is really interesting to me, especially again, as I mentioned earlier, from the family's perspective, is that if they can get a walled garden and a safe place for kids to be playing and interacting with their friends and only their friends, that's a major upsell. That's big.
But it just feels like it's too little, too late to this game. I mean, if you remember when the PS4 launched, when the Xbox, which one was that? The Xbox, not the 360, the one after, the one. Cameras were all the rage.
Yeah.
And now nobody gives a shit about that anymore. And for those who are real serious streamers, they just hook up their PlayStations to their PCs to display and show themselves at the same time. But I feel like, okay, so this is a handheld console, right?
Uh-huh.
But it doesn't have a camera on the screen.
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean?
Great. That's not
this
great.
thing from 2000, was it the PSP or the Vita? The PSP had a camera, maybe. I forgot which one it was.
The P didn't. The Vita did. I remember because Tearaway used it.
Yeah. But it just feels a bit off.
Yeah.
That's a gimmick. No, but nobody cares about seeing your friend while you are playing. Okay, you're just interested into voice because you need to communicate. But I think it's a gimmick, this camera thing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm super interested by making. I mean, obviously they made Mario Kart World exclusive for the reasons that you always make a game exclusive, which is try and move people to new hardware. But I just feel like that's an old paradigm. Which is like the amount of money left on the table by not making a new Mario Kart available to the Switch audience. I mean, if you release Mario, if you know, let's say technology aside that you can do stuff that you want with Mario Kart World, which I think is probably possible. I mean, obviously a different game, but a similar game. If you release that to the current Switch community, then that would be worth like 2 years of sales of the Switch 2. Like, just there's so many people would buy it.
I think this whole presentation screams that Nintendo is a hardware company. They really want to sell hardware. I think with the exclusive also that have been announced, I think it's really clear that they are making money from the hardware, and it's not just like maybe Microsoft that's moving away from that and just has moved away from that and wants. It's making money out of software and out of the games.
But I mean, are they? Is it because they're making so much money out of hardware, or is that because like this is what the company is built to do, and you can't really turn that ship around?
Yeah, there's legacy there for sure. They're gonna be the last one to give up on physical goods. So you can see. Also, they still will have the cartridge and everything, while the others have moved basically. Many of them have moved away from that or are moving away from that. Nintendo still has the highest physical share when it comes to software compared to other. Casey, you've disappeared.
No, I'm still here.
Okay. I just don't see you. But
it's all good. I see everything, and everything is working perfectly right now.
So then when we continue, there are some exclusive games. You're probably going to show them at some point.
Absolutely.
This feels so backwards.
Okay, I'll say one thing, Manu. I had a chat with a friend yesterday. This is the same friend who always follows the show and does, and also maybe does the liking and all the subscribing and all this stuff. But you know what he told me was the most exciting feature? You'll never guess. He was like, "Oh, finally, I can chat with my friends and see them on video." I was like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Like, that was the most.
I mean, I do think that ultimately we're going to see that feel like one of the biggest changes is like, I mean, like using Discord on PlayStation is wicked hard. Like, it's just no one's great at this except for PC. And if there is a console place that can make that easier and make that feel like an organic part of the experience, that's huge. And also, I think that the Switch is the right place to do it, right? Because it's got a touchscreen. So like, no one's ever going to be like actually chatting if they have to like move the cursor around and select letters. But Switch is a touchscreen, so you can do that.
Fair enough, but I just feel like, I mean, who is this for?
It's for that guy in the Western cut shirt pointing at the screen and talking to his friend.
Also, why do I want to see my friends play different games, which I do sometimes actually, on the PlayStation but it's like I do that when there's like a specific game that has come out or something like that, and we're doing our own things, but we would just want to hang out. But what I'm trying to get to is like, so I can see them on screen playing their own game. I can see their faces, but I just have a hard time seeing people actually do that.
Yeah, I mean, again, the voice is more important, and a good seamless voice thing is still really good, and the Switch doesn't do that great. So like, if it's more organic and more seamless with this that is a difference.
Do we have a price point for that camera, by the way?
€50 or something.
Okay, I'm surprised.
So not nothing, but not a huge amount either.
Okay,
basically under a set of Joy-Cons.
But it basically breaks the idea of a portable console, right?
Yeah. That's the other price is that it's there.
Yeah, something you put in your pocket.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, especially with that USB. There's a USB on top. Like, they just need, why did they, like the Game Boy used to have that, remember? The Game Boy had a camera that went on
why
top.
not build it in? If you're holding your Switch like this and it's built in, then it could have had that functionality out of the go. And when I dock it,
clip it on the top,
exactly. And if I dock it, the screen is still like a centimeter or two above the dock, so that camera will still work.
But then you need to orient your dock in a very particular way, which is not what I think.
Sure, but it would work.
Yeah. What it feels like for me, it's Nintendo feels very much like Apple somehow. Like they are really on their island and they are developing their stuff and they come with ideas. Sometimes they are innovative, sometimes it's just innovative for Nintendo. It's been around for a long time, but they just come with it, and some people might be impressed if they've never played on any platform other than a Nintendo platform. And it's all about, for me, they are opening their ecosystem to third-party developers, but at the same time, they are making sure the experience for the gamer is gated within their ecosystem. They don't want players to get out of their ecosystem. They want to retain them by using, I would say, old school mechanics. And I'm not sure this is where the industry is going. I'm not sure the Gen Z and the alphas are excited by having more barriers or more friction to their gaming experience. And talking about friction and entry barrier, the price of the games that have been announced is, I mean, now we are talking about $80 for digital version and a $90 for a cartridge version, so physical copy. I think it makes sense finally that digital is cheaper than physical, because it's you can resell a physical cartridge. So I think there is this element. Also, it's more expensive. A cartridge is more expensive. It's more expensive than a Blu-ray.
Yep.
So it really makes sense. I don't know how much retailers would be happy about that, because usually you would have the same price between package and digital, but the retailers, they would eat their margin and they will offer a cheaper price, at least at launch, versus digital, which cannot happen on digital. €70 on digital, and then package you can sometimes find at 55, because retailers are just cutting their margin. But here they have to cut just to be on par with digital, for starters. So I'm really curious to see how a retailer will react to that. I don't know. Again, in today's world, how many games at 90 or 80 euro will you buy? Will you buy a Switch version of Cyberpunk, of a game that has been released a few years ago, for $80? Or I don't know. Something feels.
I'll tell you, Manu. I'll tell you who will buy that. So, 10 years ago, I was 10 years old. My father or mother bought me a Switch. And now I'm 20 years old, and I'm not playing games on any other platform. So finally, I got my Switch 2 now, and now I can finally, and I'm old enough to play Cyberpunk and Elden Ring. That's who I am.
I'm not sure there are many of you.
Fair enough. So I'll add one more thing, Manu, which is this. So, I sold my Switch, right? In anticipation to buy the Switch 2. And when I sold my Switch, the person who came to my house and bought the Switch looked at all these and was like, "Hey, why don't you sell me this thing and this thing and this thing?" And I was like, "No, I'm not going to sell you these because I will keep them to play on my Switch too."
Yeah.
So I think, to your point, this is in my opinion, but I don't know, you know better, I assume. Let me know. These are the games that are going to matter and that we care about on the Switch or on the Nintendo platform. I'm sure, of course, we all know the indies thrive on the Switch as well, but I would love to hear your thoughts about it. And for those who are listening in, I'm referencing first-party titles. The Mario Odysseys, the Animal Crossings, the parties, etc.
Yeah, as opposed to the cyberpunks of the world.
If as a third-party publisher, it needs to be very cheap to launch my game on Switch, because you cannot expect to sell millions of units on Switch as a third-party publisher. I don't think it's the case. And also they've announced so many not retro compatibility, but like you can play all GameCube games on the Switch too. So it's like instantly you have access to such a library, like generations of Nintendo console available on the Switch too, which means that it might be easier to sell the hardware than to sell the software on the Switch too.
And then I think you just, as Casey was implying earlier, we just run into the problem that like so many platforms have run into, from like Netflix to Game Pass to whatever, which is that if you are a person that is interested in playing Cyberpunk, which is generally it's a very specific thing, you already have a way of playing Cyberpunk. And having a different if in a different way is like fine, but not game changing. And for that kind of person, the Steam Deck is probably going to be a better option. There's a different kind of person who is not necessarily interested in playing Cyberpunk that I think makes up a really big part of the Switch of the Switch audience, but that's just a different argument.
But at least Nintendo did a good job to try to convince third-party publishers to be more present on the Switch. It's miles better than the Switch One, which basically nobody released any game. I think Ubisoft released the
but that's a great example. The Switch One killed without it. You know?
Yeah. So again, yes, people will upgrade at some point. I don't know, beside the hardcore fans, how many people will just put $450 on the table for what has been shown yesterday.
I mean, I think a huge thing is, when do we get a Switch 2 Lite? Because that is that's a really, really important part of their ecosystem, selling to families.
And the OLED version, it's not OLED.
Also, which is a downgrade in some ways. If I'm playing like Hollow Knight, if I'm playing Silksong. Yeah, if I'm playing Silksong on one of these two machines, I might opt for my Switch, because the OLED is going to be nicer.
So there have been a lot of compromises, I believe, between the price, between the hardware, because my understanding is that they didn't go OLED so that they could go 120 FPS. So, but yeah.
That just doesn't sound very Nintendo, does it? Like, when do you hear Nintendo talking about FPS? I would so much rather for my Nintendo games have bright, beautiful colors at 60 FPS, which is a pretty good FPS, than have this kind of 120 number, which it doesn't impact me that much. For me, the difference between 60 and 120 is the difference between 1080 and 4K in most situations. That, like, sure, you can notice it. Sure, fine. But
indeed.
Got it. I want to talk about some games, shall we? If that is okay with you guys.
Just gonna close the door of my office for a second.
Okay, yeah, go for it. So this one, which is super confusing because they are charging for it. Is that correct? So Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, which is basically a watered down version of Astrobot, which was included for free in the first iteration, not the release of Astrobot the game, but the demo. What's our thoughts about this thing?
The idea that this is paid is insane to me.
I thought
nobody will buy that. I don't know. It will probably be part of a bundle to make the customer feel that he's get something for free, but nobody's going to buy that.
Like what we're seeing here is like a tutorial. It's like it's a hardware tutorial, and we're expected to pay for it.
Dave, I thought it was, when I first saw it, I thought it was like a Wii Mii's thing.
Yeah, that'd be cool. A Miiverse situation, or Mii Plaza, whatever. Yeah.
But I feel like this is ridiculous. Like, what's the value here? Or where's the fun, rather?
Yeah.
A bit unlike Nintendo in many ways.
I mean, again, I think this would be totally fine if it was a bundle. Like, this would be a great way to, like, you receive your Nintendo Switch 2, and it's like, oh, check out the features. So that would be totally fine for me. Just not as a paid piece of software.
Hey,
Yeah, it's again, there are something you're difficult to reconcile, to understand, just to understand. So I prefer not to make assumption if I don't understand something.
Yeah, maybe there's something that we're missing.
We're missing.
Here.
But don't you think they would show more depth if there was that much value? As a paid digital only game, by the way.
I mean, and also, like, is it like a? And they're really clear. Like, they know that people are going to assume this is free because it looks like a free thing that bundles in, which is why they have to say a paid digital only game. Like, is it going to be $1? I don't know, but still, anything is weird.
Yeah, maybe because they don't have a lot of software on day one of new games, new stuff. Yeah. Maybe.
So let me take you then to the first game they showed. That is obviously exclusive, and also a bit like, at least for me, it's a weird choice of a game to make. But let me know what you think. So this is Drag X Drive, and you're using the Joy-Cons like mice or mouses or mouse as a mouse, and it's like a Rocket League, but you're like a
on a wheelchair.
Yeah,
on one of those kind of performance wheelchairs. I mean, this is ARMS basically, you know. I mean, obviously
that was the robot fighting game, right?
Yeah, but like, you know, it's a similar thing. Like, Nintendo's always going to make a hardware demo, and it's always going to do okay, you know.
Who's going to buy this game? Like, I can download Rocket League day one on Nintendo Switch 2, I assume.
Price point's a big deal here. I mean, I think for $15-$20 as a hardware demo, people might buy it, screw around with it. If this is a full fat game, no way.
And this is probably just a multiplayer game. Like, there's no single player, or like a story or anything.
Also,
like
where's the crowd? Shouldn't there be a crowd?
It's Rocket League, but not Rocket League.
Yeah.
And I think Rocket League has basketball these days as well. Any other thoughts about this thing? Like, they gave it a lot of space during the presentation. That's why I'm confused here.
Yeah, well. This is for me. That's the legacy thing. A lot of this just feels like legacy, which is why I say this is basically ARMS, just with it demoing different hardware. This is what Nintendo does. They are going to release a new piece of hardware with some kind of trick to it, and they're going to give a lot of time to this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. I'll move over to the more exciting stuff then. Let's start with the biggest, maybe most exciting thing, which is Mario Kart World. What are you thinking, guys?
It looks great. It looks awesome. I'm really interested by the level of customization we seem to be seeing in the drivers, because I just really like playing Mario Kart, and a little more meta progression. Like, even like the very basic unlock system in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I found to be pretty engaging. Mostly just because like it's like a little bit of structure on top of playing Mario Kart, and so more meta progression, give me more reasons to just like chill out, play Mario Kart. That's good. Looks really nice, and the whole Forza Kart World thing. That's I'm seeing a lot that I'm excited about here, which I was surprised by because I was having a hard time understanding what was going to get me excited about a new Mario Kart, and it's this.
Manu, any additional thoughts here?
What is the crew, the crew 2, where you can drive different type of vehicles? And I don't know, because I saw some jet ski stuff or on water. I don't know if it's still cars on water, if it's a different physics.
I mean, that's Mario Kart 8 has that too. It has, sometimes you don't even really notice it. Sometimes your car becomes a hovercraft. Yeah.
I mean, if you like it, I think it's a great improvement. This is not my type of entertainment, but So for the core audience, I'm sure it will be fun also for the kids and playing multiplayer on the same. I don't know. I guess you can play also on the same screen. Did they say that? Like four player on the same screen?
If Mario Kart
tradition.
released without split screen
Yeah.
multiplayer, then
Okay.
then
It's a
I'm
tradition.
gonna shoot some pigs out of the sky.
I don't know if they are showcasing that here in the trailer, but no, and there is this element of open world, so a bit like Forza Horizon, I guess, if I understood correctly.
Mhm.
So you can just roam around. It's also a discovery type of game. So yeah, it looks much better than Mario Kart 8. Yes.
Yeah, and these levels, they do look great. Like from a basic way, do the levels look cool? Levels look really cool.
Yeah.
So I'll add a couple notes here. I think from a gameplay perspective, that's what impressed me in terms of they found other ways for you to have fun while driving. As an example, sliding on the like doing the grinding, like the skateboard grinding on the rails type situation.
In the wall jumps.
Driving
too.
on the walls.
Yeah.
Then to your point, Dave, you were talking about your car in 8 transforming into a hover type thing. Here, they've found a bigger variety of transformations. We saw the water ski, the ski jet, the snow jet, that type of stuff.
Yeah,
there's more flying. It seems like you're even flying much higher.
Yeah, because there's not really flying in 8. There's gliding.
Gliding. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it looks like maybe more power-ups, more things to do in the world that could be interesting. So the older Mario Kart games, you're just racing in a circle mostly, or sometimes you have these tracks where it's a one-way race. But here it feels like, okay, now I can, to what Dave was mentioning before, I can now discover things in the world. Maybe I can collect things. Maybe I can do some social stuff.
There's the knockout race that this sort of semi battle royale thing where you just keep going. I think that's cool. I'm into that.
My only concern. Oh, here you go. You have these cups as well, where you're like chaining levels. Maybe hopefully there's no loading screen now. Like I'm just going from one race to the next one, which would be really
to teleport, I guess, somehow.
It looks like you're. Well, you do drive from track to track in the Grand Prix mode, I believe.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, exactly. I hope they had. They will need like just 100% classic Grand Prix. This is what you expect. This is what you get.
To your point as well, Dave, like the amount of customization. In 8, there was no progression system in the form of I can see what the rewards are, right? It just randomly you get a reward.
Yeah,
that's my feeling. And here it feels like maybe there's even more content than ever.
Yeah, and it looked like some of the customization happened in match. Like he gets a cheeseburger and then he looks like a different guy.
Yeah.
And let's not forget that Super Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was everything was unlocked. So there was limited progression because everything was unlocked. Here you probably start completely from scratch because it's a completely different game. So I think the engagement will be higher. There will be way more stuff to unlock.
Yeah,
absolutely. You did unlock a lot of things as you played 8, but I think for me here, the danger, and hopefully you can tell us what you think is going to happen here. Do you think they're going to do any type of microtransaction type stuff? So with the old one, with 8, you had 8, obviously, which is an older game, packed with new content. And then on top of that, they released, and Dave, you have to probably help me out here. Was it 1 or 2 DLCs that you could buy? And those included like several tracks and
well, they're tied to Switch Online.
Got it.
So you get a Switch Online membership, then you get by the end of it was 4 new cups. So each cup has 4 races.
Got it. But there was no there was no in-game store with microtransactions, stuff like that. Is that something that we fear might happen here?
Not for cosmetics, but I could see it for tracks.
Mm-hmm.
The way, if you look at the map that they gave you, it would be pretty easy to tack, especially on the southern part of that map, to just tack new areas on, and I'd be fine with that. I remember with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I was playing the thing all the time. I was like, just let me buy some new tracks. Just make some new tracks. I'll buy them. I don't care how much they cost.
I just don't know how you do if you have friends. If everybody has to buy it or not. I think always the question was the same back then in Battlefield, where they would release map packs as part of a live service, like paid maps. So you can only play the basic maps if your friend doesn't have the expansion pack or the season pass. So there's always a risk of segmenting your audience when you come with paid playable content like that.
Well, speaking of sharing content, by the way, that was a feature that we forgot to talk about. So the Nintendo Switch 2 allows you to share your game with 3 other people. Do we know how that works or what that means actually? Did you see that, or you missed it?
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how
I
it
think
works,
it was
because even now
either-
like having 2 Switches that both belong to you is even now kind of difficult.
But I think it was one of those things where, like, let's say you're my friend, you come to my house, you have your Switch with you. We only need 1 copy, and because we're on the same Wi-Fi or something like that, or there is a way for them to track that we actually are in the vicinity of each other or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're playing both of us separately on different screens with, like, with our own progression, all that stuff, the same game. That's my understanding of the presentation, but I could be wrong. Which I think is a cool feature. I'm not sure how third party will react to that though, but I mean, Split Fiction won't have a problem with that at all. They would embrace. I mean, they are the ones who
exactly
invented that, more or less. But do you think this will be a thing accepted by third parties, or maybe it's an option that you can opt into?
I don't know. I don't have an opinion at this point. Again, there are a lot of stuff that has been thrown in the presentation. Some of them will stay gimmick, and some of them will really potentially be game changers. But it's a bit too early to call, I would say, on that one specifically. I'm just trying to figure out who is actually playing like that.
Yeah.
Who, in which circumstance do you have like 2 people in the same room with a Switch, or in which circumstance do you want to see the face of the person you're playing with? All of that, it's very, nothing feels really mass market. Everything feels like niche, niche.
I will say that, and I hate the perspective like, oh, they're Nintendo, they're going to pull it out, everything's going to be great. But it is, I remember when we saw the first reveal of the Switch and they're playing their Switch on the rooftop party, and everyone's like, who's going to do that? And then, like, I found myself doing that like 3 weeks later.
Okay.
So here it is then. Then I guess it's confirmed. Like, local play with other system and game share. So if we're on the same network, then you can just, like, play the game that I own at the same time with me.
That's cool.
So that's what I'm understanding.
Are they playing Uno here?
And also it's cross switches. It's not just across the Switch 2.
What?
Come again?
If you are 4 people in the same room, why would you play Uno on the Switch?
Well, I mean, they're demonstrating games, Manu. Different games.
Choose something else.
Okay.
You get my point, okay?
I do agree that it's always concerning when the example that they choose doesn't really work.
Here it is. Here it is.
Something that makes sense, okay? Reversi. Okay, because you don't need to take the physical good with you. Yeah, I can see.
It's a
cross. You need to take 4 Switches instead.
I mean, you can buy the cheaper hardware,
which is cards.
So so it's select games, and so it's not like something they're forcing on third party. And here's an interesting caveat: Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games can only be shared with Nintendo Switch 2 systems. So keep that in mind.
Which makes sense. I mean, if they're built for the Switch 2, you can't share them with a console that's not capable of playing them.
Well, they had to write that out, Dave. You have to have the clarity. Okay, let's move over to the next exciting title, which is Donkey Kong Bananza. Now, this one specifically I completely missed to watch, so I will watch it with you. What's your take on this game?
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
I think it's a weird choice that they went not with Mario, and they did kind of a similar type of Mario game, but with Donkey Kong.
I mean, I think they're waiting for Mario for next holiday season, basically. They
probably to have the install base, and make it potentially exclusive to Switch 2. Also.
Yeah, because that's their next major opportunity to sell a lot of units. Well, they have 2 more opportunities. It's the next Mario, the next Zelda.
Yeah.
I'll be very curious to see how they decide to dole them out.
Mm-hmm.
Do we think they will do a GTA 6?
No.
Why not?
I don't think it could run it.
No.
I mean, you have Cyberpunk and Elden Ring, so...
I mean, Elden Ring ain't GTA 6.
Cyberpunk was launched on the Gen 4, okay? On the PlayStation 4. And we saw the result. So...
Yeah.
No.
And Elden Ring, I don't think, is a massive lift of a game.
No, not at all. The engine is... I mean, it's open world this time, but the engine as such is kind of older.
Yeah.
I would be very disappointed if GTA 6 is not such a technical step that it can run on a Switch 2.
I mean, I like the throwing stuff around here looks really cool. I think this is a cool looking game. I mean, right. And it's Nintendo, so being a 10 out of 10 is always a possibility. It's more like, an 8.5 would be cool. I'll play it. A 10, if it winds up being a Breath of the Wild scale, an Odyssey scale, then that could begin to make a difference as far as the adoption.
The digging and the destruction is nice. I still don't get why. I mean, we have talked about the game about digging a hole, which is super fun.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't understand why a game like there was nothing after Red Faction. If you go look at Red Faction, it had destructible environment. You could drill, you could explode basically everything, and there's not been that much of that.
Well, there's been like Minecraft, right? I think that's kind of where that impulse went.
And game like Thier is also very successful because you can destroy them. But I don't get why there has not been more like AA or AAA type of game.
My guess is that the technology that they everyone pushed photorealistic graphics or approaching photorealistic graphics so hard that the sort of technical lift required to make a system like that work just increased exponentially.
Yeah, or you would need a dedicated engine and not the Unreal Engine. That's also
possible. Yeah, exactly. Which is why we've seen it in lo-fi games like Minecraft and Valheim and stuff like that. But my guess is making it work with what was expected out of the AA and AAA space was unworkable.
Are we, by the way, not disappointed that I can't buy all these games day one? It's like they're trying to drip feed me throughout the year.
Yeah, I don't know. There's 6 of one, half dozen the other, right? Because if you could buy them all day one, then 3 months later would come by and everyone would be saying the Nintendo exclusive drought
has no games.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are so many other games, right? In terms of there are so many other games in terms of downloadable indie games and games that will move over from the Switch 1 to the 2. Okay. So here's the thing. Guys, I'll ask you this question. You have $1 billion. And you can get the golden goose of the video game industry to make you a game. 1, which studio is that? Okay. And 2, what game is it?
From Software Dustbloods.
Okay. Perfect. Good answer, Dave. That's $1 billion well spent, by the way.
Yeah.
I will play that and let's talk about this. Well, what do you? So yeah, tell me, Dustbloods.
A lot of people I know were disappointed that it's not like a mainline thing. That it's PvPvE. For me personally, like that, I said the same thing about Chalice Dungeons and Bloodborne. I was like, why would I want to play this when I could just be playing regular From Software? And then
I love you, but I'll say you're wrong about the Chalice Dungeons. Please.
No, that's what I was mid-sentence explaining how then later I got super into the Chalice Dungeons.
Hell yeah.
So I thought those were super cool, and I would love to see sort of an evolution of the Chalice Dungeon concept with more people with like a stronger multiplayer focus. I don't know. I don't want to say that From Software is only allowed to make one kind of game, and so I'm excited to see what happens with this.
Can you both explain to me? So, looking at the trailer, I didn't read about the game in detail, apart from knowing that it's a Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive for now. We'll see what happens later. But
there is no release date, okay? There's a lot of that
2026.
is announced, okay?
It's 2026, right? Yeah,
you will see about that.
We'll see it soon. But I guess what I want to get to, okay, so this is not a traditional From Software game, or is it? Because when I hear PvPvE, for me that means Sorry, Dave. It means basically it's Elden Ring again, but
What?
maybe there's a more seamless.
Well, yeah, I think that's interesting is that you could theoretically describe the traditional evasion mechanics as PvPvE. It's just that you wouldn't necessarily because that's not the center of the experience. Here it sounds like it's the center of the experience.
Yeah.
Got it. But is that the pitch when they put out the PR release or what?
Yeah, that's like what is this game? It is a PvPvE game. You know.
Okay. But if I'm looking at the trailer, nothing tells me that. It tells me like unlike Elden Ring, Nightingale. Unlike that game, that was very apparent from the trailer. Like, hey, you are supposed to be with other people. But here, I don't feel like anything's telling me that.
I'm getting hero shooter vibes from this sort of this wheel of different looking characters.
Manu?
It looks amazing visually. I'm very sad if it's not a single player experience. And I'm very sad because I'm not going to buy Switch 2 even for that.
Yeah. Yeah, my question will be like, how viable is the single player experience?
Yeah, so it's basically I don't want to see that game because I will not have access to it. It for me it's I prefer that it doesn't exist in my reality.
Yeah, I mean, for me the biggest reason to play From Software games is visual design, enemy design.
Yeah.
And this has got it.
Yeah, it looks really great. That's the problem.
It does look unique. I wonder if it's going to play unique as well. Like, if you remember, Bloodborne was very, very different from the traditional Dark Souls type game. It was a lot more aggressive for the player, and there was no shield using, and you had the guns, of course.
Yeah, but it was still the same mechanics. You unlock regions, and then you have your campsite, and you know it's
absolutely sure.
The combat was different in the same way that I think Sekiro was much further away from other From Software game than Bloodborne from Dark Souls.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can basically play Dark Souls like it's Bloodborne if you get yourself 2 daggers and make a fast character, you know.
Yeah.
So, what we just saw on screen, 2026, Switch 2 only. Obviously, I'm already getting my Switch 2, and Manu, I can borrow it out to you so you can play Duskblood. Okay,
don't try it and say no, it's not for me.
Okay, fair enough.
I can't even try it I can't even know if I like it. That's the problem.
I think I would love to know how much money did Nintendo spend to secure this.
Yeah.
Any thoughts there?
I think it's also very weird because there is this whole investment from Sony into the company owning From Software.
Yeah.
It feels very counter. Probably this deal has been signed before they increased their stake in the company.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
and that's clearly why this is not Bloodborne multiplayer. You know, it's legally distinct Bloodborne game. Yeah.
At this point, I would prefer that Sony buys From Software than letting From Software do Nintendo exclusive because I know that they would potentially release the PlayStation exclusive on PC.
So, at least. Normally I would agree with this, but I have a feeling that this is a good thing. That, From Software is doing something specific on a specific platform and just like, because Bloodborne for me is still the best Souls-type game ever made. Maybe I need to go back and replay it to just compare to Elden Ring because Elden Ring is really, really high up there. But I feel like I have a good feeling that this is going to be one of those, like, I need to buy this console to play it. Yeah. Obviously, I'm already doing that. Good stuff. Gentlemen, do I need to go back to Trump and the tariffs at all?
No.
Okay. Yeah, whatever. No one knows. It's bad. Whatever.
Okay.
I mean, as I mentioned before, the only thing I'll say is that the major question about adoption of something like the Switch 2 or, sort of the broader fate of humanity is whether or not anyone has any discretionary income.
Now? Okay.
Yeah. You see,